Welcome, everyone. We're going to learn Parsha Tzav. For those who might be wondering, we are recording this beforehand because the Parsha class is on break for Chodesh Nisan and Pesach. So this will be a shorter Devar Torah, but we hope you'll like it nonetheless. So Parsha Tzav begins with the Ola offering. In English, it's called the elevation offering or the burnt offering, because the entire offering was burnt on the altar, which was an exception because many of the offerings were eaten either by the Kohanim or the Kohanim and the person who brought it. But this type of offering was completely consumed on the altar. And there are many, many different reasons why this offering was brought. It's not a sin offering, but it was brought for various reasons in order to advance one spiritually. And it also, in a sense, was an atonement for negative thoughts. But the point that I want to deal with is the fire on the altar. That on the altar, there was a continual fire. And interestingly enough, in every synagogue in the world, there's what is called a ner tamid, an everlasting light. And most people relate it to, and correctly, to the menorah, because the menorah was lit every single day. And yet, the amount of oil put in, it wasn't supposed to be burning all the time. But we were told that a miracle occurred, and one of the lamps would last from lighting to lighting. But just as correctly, the ner tamid also represents the fire on the altar. So it says, right at the beginning of the Parsha, it says actually two times. Once it says, V'ha'esh, in verse 5 of chapter 6, it says, V'ha'esh ala mizbeach tukad bo, lo tichbeh. It says, a fire on the altar will be burning in it. Do not put it out. And then, just one verse later, it repeats it, but in a different order. Eish tamid, not ner tamid, but eish tamid, tukad al mizbeach lo tichbeh. A everlasting fire shall be burning on the mizbeach, on the altar. Don't put it out. So it says in Chassidut, a very interesting thing that applies to each person on a practical level and on a deeper spiritual level. And the parable brought is to start a fire from scratch takes work. If anyone's built a campfire or had a wood stove, to build it from scratch, you have to have small kindling, and then small wood, then medium wood, then big wood. Yeah, it takes an effort. Once it's going, though, then you just keep on putting on the logs. So Chassidut says, what this verse means, it says, a continual fire shall be burning on the altar. Don't let it go out, because if you let it go out, it's so much harder to start up again. Even if you keep just a few coals going, then you can just easily throw a little bit of wood on it, and then a big piece, and you have your fire again. So how does this translate into our own lives? And this is just an example that could be applied in 100 different ways. But let's say we daven every day. Not every day when we wake up in the morning do we necessarily feel like davening. Maybe we're tired, maybe we don't feel good, maybe we woke up late and we have an early appointment, whatever it is. So if each time we would say, oh, okay, I won't daven today, because I'm really not into it right now. I don't really feel like it. I'll daven tomorrow. I'll make up for it tomorrow. So it's like starting the fire all over again. So they say that even on those times, again, this could be applied to many different areas of life, even though times when I'm not necessarily on fire to daven, you should daven anyways, just to keep the fire going, so that when you're ready to really daven, you just put an extra log on. You don't have to start all over. Same thing with the diet. The same thing with exercise. Let's say you exercise 3 months every single day. And then, I don't feel like it today. And then you exercise for 4 days and then something else comes up. And before you know it, you lost the rhythm. You lost the momentum. And then to start again, you have to build up your muscles and your stamina. Or a diet, the same thing. If you just chuck the diet for a week, to start again is it's so much more effort. So that's what the Torah means here. It's incredible practical advice and spiritual advice. Eish tamid tukad al mizbech lo tichbeh. So one of my favorite stories is when the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, first went to the Maggid of Mezrich. And he wasn't a Chassid yet, but he went to the Maggid, and the Maggid saw in this young man phenomenal potential. Phenomenal potential. So one day he called him in, and he repeated this verse 10 times. Eish tamid tukad al mizbeach lo tichbeh. Eish tamid tukad al mizbeach lo tichbeh. Said it to him 10 times. And then he explained that the way that most people read the last 2 words, lo tichbeh, don't put it out. He said you could read it differently by just putting a comma. So he read it like this: a continual fire shall be burning on the Mizbeach. The lo, the voice in you that's saying negative things, or you can't, or no, comma, you shall put out. So he said to him that, because he understood that he was like new to Chassidut, and there was a little voice still saying, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if this is my way. I'm not sure. So he said it to him 10 times. He says, put out the low. Put out the negativity that's saying you can't do it. You won't succeed. You're not good enough. You don't deserve it. You don't have the merit. This is the same voice we're told that Amalek speaks to. Amalek is gematria safek, doubt. That Amalek comes and puts doubt, puts the low into our mind. So the Magi was saying, put out the low, put out the negativity, and then the fire will burn forever. So this whole idea of the fire is symbolic of our service of God. The altar represents the not just the service of God. We know that on Shabbos, our Shabbos table is the altar. So the altar is where our service is happening. And like it says, Eish Tami, there should be a continual fire. This is one of the main teachings of Chassidut, is we have to serve God with enthusiasm, with renewed energy, with dedication. That it needs, to keep a fire going, you have to continually put logs on it. And as we said before, if you let it go out, you have to start all over from scratch. And most people don't have an easy time starting all over from scratch. It's just easier in the lull moments to keep it going, so that when you're ready, you just put on a little log and you have the fire again. So in my experience, so Reb Shlomo was the master of fanning the flames of serving God with enthusiasm, with fire. Because he demanded of himself and really everyone around him to make the most of every moment, of every experience, and that nothing could be done just half-hearted. You have to throw your whole being into everything. Not easy, but it's at least it's the goal we should be striving for, is continually fanning the flames. So that's the first vision when God comes to Moshe at the burning bush, and he sees a bush is burning and it's not consumed. So that becomes the model for our service of God, is how to serve God with fire and not get burnt out and not be consumed by it. Because we've all seen people who have this fire, but it burns them out. So we have to be careful of burnout, but we want the bush to be burning and not to be consumed. So in the month of Nisan is new birth, rebirth, creation of the world, dedication of the Mishkan. This is the month to grab onto that energy and not to let it go out. Chag Sameach, everyone. Chag Sameach. Pesach Sameach. Kasher v'Sameach.